And my brother was a comic, and he wanted to get off the road and said, "You want to start a comedy club?" And I was like, "Sure."
Live from the Willie Nelson and Friends Museum Showcase in Nashville, Tennessee. It's Music is Funny. Musicians talking to comedians about music and comedy. With your hosts, Raelyn Nelson and Jonathan Bright.
I'm still smoking, I'm so high, I keep toking, I'm drunk, but I'm still drinking too.
Welcome back to Music is Funny. I'm Raelyn Nelson.
And I'm Jonathan Bright from the Raelyn Nelson Band, back with another ridiculous and unnecessary intro.
A Brian Dorfman and a Lucy Weber.
From Zanies.
Is it Weber now? It's gotta be. So thanks for having us.
Thanks for coming.
You guys run the infamous Nashville Zanies Comedy Club.
Infamous, yeah, wow. Right out of the chute there.
Scene of the crime.
Yeah.
And we've gotten to know you guys a little bit over the past few months since we've started this podcast, and so we just have to have you guys on. So I'll start with you because you're the lady. What's the first music you remember loving as a kid, or the first concert you went to?
The first concert I ever went to is so random. It's Nelly Furtado.
Yeah.
Back when Fly Like a Bird came out.
Yes.
And I went with my dad, and it was at Tremont Music Hall in Charlotte, which has since closed. But it was like a very cool rock club, kind of like Exit In.
I remember that place.
Yeah, it was awesome. And then, like, a couple years later, my next show was Shinedown. So I really made a big jump from one to another. But that's the first concert I went to. And then the first music I remember my dad used to play Van Morrison all the time. And I loved that. So I'd probably say Van Morrison.
Yeah, it usually is what our parents were listening to. Or...
And I'm lucky my dad likes good music.
I was about to say, sounds like you got a hip dad.
My mom does not like music. I don't know if I've ever met another person who would make that statement that she just doesn't care for it. But I'm very lucky that my dad likes
It's just
good
not my
music.
cup of tea.
Yeah. So,
I don't know if I've ever heard that before.
yeah.
Doug Stanhope told us that he hates music.
What?
But he also said he tells everybody that so he doesn't get judged on his musical taste.
Yeah, but also, I think Doug probably hates himself more than that's a good point. Music.
Okay, so what's the first music you remember loving as a kid?
When I was a kid, first concert was Captain at Tennille. I can't beat that with my mom.
Oh, right on.
Muskrat Susie, Muskrat Sam.
Yeah.
I was a member of the Kiss Army.
Okay.
I was a member.
Yeah. So third, fourth grade. But the thing that got me into music more than anything is a bootleg I got in 5th or 6th grade was Bruce Springsteen's Live at the Bottom Line.
Yeah.
Spirit in the Night Live changed actually just the energy and the rawness of back then with the way Bruce was singing. It changed me forever for music.
Where were you living at the time?
Chicago.
Yeah.
Dog Ear Records. When they used to have those little stores.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, little head shop and record store.
Yeah.
Dog Ear Records, Highwood, Illinois. Yep.
Yeah.
I miss the record stores. You'd kill hours in there just looking at
every Tuesday.
Just looking at records.
Every Tuesday would come out. Absolutely, yeah. You used to go out there. That's when the albums come out. You knew when they were coming out, and you made a whole day of it. It was great.
Yeah, and even when I was a kid, I'd get dumped off at the mall, and I'd go straight to and just look at the Kiss album covers.
Yeah.
As a member of the Kiss Army, as you well know,
Absolutely,
they knew how to make an album cover. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Did the radio tell you guys what was cool though? Because I feel like that's for our generation. Maybe the radio told us what was popular.
Yeah, the radio, Big Brothers, older stoners, basically.
Friends Brothers, absolutely.
Yeah.
That was always my musical
We would
taste.
call in and request songs.
Yeah.
That was like the cool thing when I was in middle school.
Yeah, we would do that and then set the tape recorder by the speaker so you could tape
Oh,
it on
really?
a cassette player.
I definitely
People would
didn't do that.
Yeah, a little older than you, but people would walk through the room like, shut the fuck up.
Is it live or is it memorized?
Yeah.
I mean, you can record them at. And the one thing we had in Chicago, which was, talk about radio, WXRT is one of the great radio stations of all times. And they had, their DJs were there for 30 years.
Yeah.
And they were always the hip shows coming to town. I remember, the first one, they were the first ones to play like REM and all that kind of cool stuff. Yeah.
And
always hip.
college radio, I missed that too. There was that middle ground for the bands that weren't top 40 or whatever that you, like, especially here in Nashville, RVU, the Vanderbilt station. REM, Driving and Crying, all those bands that never made, well, they eventually did.
Yeah.
But in the college days, you could turn on that and hear, 10 songs that were horrible, but 2 or 3, like, wow, this is good
Lightning
shit.
100 is based off XRT.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lightning 100 is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was all based on WXRT in Chicago.
Okay, that's cool. What do you guys what's your go-to music listening? Like, do y'all listen to comedy podcasts or do y'all listen to music?
I don't think Brian knows how to find a podcast. To be honest
Here we go.
with you.
She might be right.
But that's good
Low blow,
about
but you're
having.
right.
I listen to comedy podcasts, but I haven't as much as I used to. But I still will check them out from time to time, for sure.
So when you go, what's your go-to listening in the car?
In general or comedy?
Do you listen to music in the car? Or do you listen to
I
comedy?
listen to music in the car more than I listen to comedy. Comedy I like to listen to at the house if I'm like doing something.
Yeah,
so if
yeah.
I'm like doing laundry or like doing the dishes or something, that's a good thing to have in the background. But in the car, normally music.
And what's that these days? What music do you turn on these days?
I mean, I don't want to admit it, but I am a hardcore Taylor Swift fan.
Me too. I'm a
Okay, cool,
Swiftie.
cool.
Yes.
You always have to like feel out the room for some reason with Taylor
Yeah.
Swift because people are very passionately
Say it proud. Say it proud.
There
like
you go.
anti
Stick that chest
pro,
out and say,
but
yeah,
yeah.
Swiftie.
She's a great songwriter, and
Yeah.
I love watching her evolve. Yes.
And then recently I've been getting into this girl. Her name's Yeba.
I don't know who
think
that
she
is.
lived in Nashville for a while. She's from Arkansas.
Okay.
But it's very cool and like kind of R&B, soul.
How do you spell Yeba?
Yebba.
Okay, I'll
She's
check it
so
out.
good.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been listening to her a ton. She just put out a new album, so
Nice. Okay.
big fan. And then comedy podcasts, I like
What's your
Chris
face?
Chris
Yeah.
DiStefano's Chrissy
Chaos,
Chaos.
yeah.
That's a really fun one. The Tim Dillon Show.
Of course.
And
And why did that come out this week?
They're moving it to Mondays, so I think
I
it
saw
comes
an
out
announcement, a
today.
post or something. Yes.
Okay.
Because
Coming out
he's doing
Mondays
a
at
theater
9.
tour, so he's
Well,
trying to like.
I went to his Twitter and he was like, "Yeah, we ended up doing it, so it'll be out." And then it never came
And then
out.
an hour later, I think he said, "Never mind." That's the
Okay.
constant Tim Dillon. That's
we
the
love
Tim
him?
Dillon effect.
And I would imagine you have seen so much comedy in your time that the last thing you want to listen to outside of work is a lot of stand-up.
That's probably true.
That and he doesn't know how to find the podcast.
She's right. Well, you guys are both correct.
Right.
So what's your go-to listening in the car?
I'm a hardcore Deadhead. It's
Really?
It's 24/7 all Grateful Dead.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you smoke weed?
Actually, I've never smoked. I'll do edibles now, but I've never really smoked dope.
Yeah.
I was
I'm a
surprised
juicer.
too.
I'm a drinker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
What's
you
your
don't
go-to
have the
beverage?
classic Grateful Dead look either.
No.
Like the
Yeah.
clothes.
Yeah,
Or the smell?
Yeah, I've seen them hundreds and hundreds of times.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
How did you get into comedy?
Yeah.
It's a family business, right?
Well, what
Well,
do-
it was really well thought out. My brother was a comic on the road. I was working miserable. I was actually going to go down to the South and play in a terrible low-level pro hockey league. And my brother goes, because I just graduated,
What year is this, roughly?
91 I graduated, and then I worked to maybe 92. And I'm like, I'm out of here. And I had a buddy playing down in Texas. And my brother was a comic, and he wanted to get off the road and said, "You want to start a comedy club?" And I was like, "Sure." That's exactly how I got involved in it. And then I had a meeting, Rick Hewitt, who started Zanies. It was a town in Vernon Hills, Illinois, northern suburbs. And so my brother got a special use permit, and Rick was looking in the area to put another club in there. It would have been, at that point, it would have been a fourth location in Chicago. And we had a meeting downtown at the Zanies downtown, and got done, and Rick goes, "I want you," and we were partners to the day he passed. I love that dude.
Wow.
The greatest
Wow.
influence in my life. Yeah, I loved him.
And there was a bit of that. Wasn't that during kind of the comedy boom where comedy clubs were popping up a lot?
There was a boom. There was it was probably the end of the boom.
Right.
But what happened in that, at that time, there was, Zanies was 150 seats down in Chicago. They had the Funny Firm, which was a 400-seat club. Somewhere there was a Catch a Rising Star. There was an Improv. There was a 400-seat club. And that would be something called like the Paper Wars. Everyone was getting free tickets, and it really hurt comedy.
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it really did.
Kind of like streaming before streaming. You get it for free and you don't want to pay for it.
Right. That's exactly right.
100%.
And then when you get there, and then it was like, and then people selling tickets, is he $20 funnier than the free ticket and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how long has Zanies in Nashville? been
83.
open? 83?
Yep.
And you started in
91.
91.
It started in 91. The first club opened in October of 92. and that was in Vernon Hills. But the whole process started at the end of '91.
Wow. Yeah. And I've been coming here since the late 80s. And it's changed, but it hasn't changed much. And from the comedians we talk about, I think that's why they love it.
Well, I think it's perfume on a pig, right? We at some point, I think I have a lot of other clubs, and they're bigger and they're prettier and all that kind
Better
of stuff.
food, maybe. But
Whoa.
we have the best chicken tenders.
We have never killed anybody out of this kitchen. But I think that's what comedy's supposed to be. Just a little dirty, a little on top of you, a little bit of history, everything about it. I think this is the perfect combination. With the wood, I think it sounds fantastic in here.
The size,
everything.
It's really
Low
intimate.
ceilings.
comedians talk about theaters and how the ceilings are too high.
Yeah.
Just that comedy's not made to be done in, or
Theaters.
it's harder to do with big, wide open. It's more when everything's just.
Well, what's on top of you, the laughter's here. So
Yeah.
when in those theaters, a lot of it, and especially in arenas, they just go. It's a
Yeah.
quick laugh and it's gone.
Yeah. And how did you jump on board here?
About 9 years ago now, I was a junior in college and I was in love with comedy, but there's no what do you do if you don't want to be a comedian? There's no major or, anything. So
Yeah, because you couldn't just sound engineer. Like if you love music, but you don't play anything, you could be a sound engineer.
Think about
You could be
the
a manager.
industry, behind comedy. So I just looked up the club in the city that I'm from in Charlotte, and I basically did what a comic does to a booker and bothered him until he agreed to meet with me. I wouldn't let it go. I just kept reaching out, and he agreed finally, begrudgingly, to meet with me. And I think we met at a bar that was attached, or that club is in a basement kind of, and it was the restaurant on top. And I went in, and I think he walked up to me and was like, "You don't want to fucking do this. You don't have to." I think that was the first words out of his mouth. And I just wouldn't let go. So he was like, "Okay, you can intern during the day, and then to make a couple bucks, you can work the door at night." And so I did that. And Brian and his brother happened to come down. All of the club owners in the South are very close.
Everyone who's a partner in Huntsville.
Right.
So we have a club in Huntsville, and it's Brian Heffern who owns the Comedy Zones with me and my brother. It was Chris DePetto who owns the Punchline, and Bruce Ayers who owns the Stardome in Birmingham. We're all partners in a club.
Right.
And we're all really good friends.
Right.
Yeah.
We had a meeting, and Lucy was at the meeting.
Yeah, and we had a phone, and we put it on speaker, and we were talking to the agents, and they were pitching, newer talent, and I just kind of sat in the corner and just told them all who these younger guys were, and he kind of kept in touch and was like, "If you ever want a job,
when you graduate, you want a job, call me." And that's exactly
so
what you
I
did.
had one more year left, which was painful for me because I was
Yeah.
ready.
A job waiting on you.
Yeah, I was like,
So was it your parents
college-
going, "No, you're finishing before you go"?
I think it was just
Or
like, I'm
just
already
so
here, I
close.
might as well finish.
Right.
And I'm very lucky that my parents didn't really understand it, but they were like, "You really like this, so go do it." And yeah, I've been here ever since then.
And what were you doing to keep up with the new comedy? You were just going to shows? And
Going to shows and listening to podcasts and looking. If I like something, I like to learn everything about it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of just what I was doing. There was no great secret that I have besides I just kind of got into it and kept watching. And then when I got here, he let me produce a show, and then I kept learning about all the comics in the region. And now I think in Nashville we have a really strong scene, which
Sure
is really
do.
cool.
So she's done a great job.
Thanks.
Yeah,
So
Liz done a great job.
Your brother was a stand-up. Were
Yes.
you a stand-up fan of that? Did
Always.
you know that world where you I guess you probably both growing up, if you became a stand-up, you had to be a comedy
Always.
family.
Yeah, I think that, I don't know if a comedy family, there was really nothing funny going on in the house. No, I've always enjoyed it. I've always been a fan of jokes, just like street jokes. I always can regurgitate. I can always tell a good story and a good joke. I think the first album I remember listening to was, my parents had was, it was Carl Reiner and Mel Brooks' 2,000-Year-Old Man.
Yeah.
And, we always had at the house prior albums, always listen to Carlin, so the classics of that part of it. And at the time, you didn't realize they're still the two greatest comics of all time.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, and it's got, and I've always liked comedy. Yeah.
That's a good first album.
2,000-Year-Old
Yeah.
Man? Oh, it's
And
great.
who was the first comedian you remember loving?
So mine is when I was either a freshman or a sophomore in high school. It was like right around the era of like Bravo becoming a thing and Perez Hilton and like celebrity gossip. And Bravo used to play Kathy Griffin specials like over and over and over again. And so that's like the first person I got really into. So my best friend's mom drove like 4 of us from Charlotte to Durham to go see her when I was in high school.
Nice.
And I'd never seen a live show. And I mean, our like saying is comedy is better live. But it like really, truly is so much better live. And I just remember sitting there and being like, I've never seen anything like this. This is amazing that somebody just makes people laugh for an hour and a half. And I was hooked from then. But I wasn't old enough to get into the comedy club. So I think I snuck in at 17, but I did have to wait a couple years.
I had a fake idea. I saw Zanies when I was a kid. It was Bobby Slayton headline. Larry Reed was the MC.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
A fake idea. Yeah.
So this must have been a trip. I guess you saw a lot of the comedians you ended up booking that came through here right when you first started at the club here in Nashville. Because I remember
I started in Chicago.
when did you get here?
97.
So you were a little bit later than that. Because I saw, I think some of my first shows here were Bill. This probably predates you even working here. But I saw Bill Hicks a couple of times here. Mitch Hedberg when they came through.
Well, I know Mitch and I were pretty tight.
Yes.
Didn't know Bill. My brother knew Bill well, but I didn't know Bill at all.
So it must have been a trip to work in these clubs and see these guys come through.
First time Starstruck
Yeah?
Yeah.
was Tommy Chong. Maybe the only time Starstruck. I mean, I loved Cheech and Chong growing up, and the first time I met Tommy, and as I said, I'm not a smoker, but every time Tommy got there, I got high with Tommy. I'm like,
It's like Willie Nelson showing up.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. So it was pretty cool.
So
Can I take a break for 2 seconds?
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
My brother's. I got to get on a phone call. I'm sorry.
Do what
I
you
don't want
need
to
to
be
do.
rude. I'm sorry, but he's just
great. This is fucking over. Never mind. Thanks, everybody.
No, sorry.
No,
Sorry.
it's
All right, fuck you guys. Just let's get on with this shit. Enough about me. Let's go. I got shit to do.
Brian had to take a call.
He's very important.
He is. So, have you ever been starstruck by anybody that's come through?
I used to get starstruck all the time because I was 20. I was right out of college, so I was 22 when I got here. And like immediately they're like, okay, you have to drive everybody around. And you're like, what?
You're the
I have to
intern.
go pick them up and take them back and forth. And they're like, yeah. So I got over the starstruck thing pretty quick, especially because I think comedians like to be treated like people. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everybody likes to get treated like a person, but I think more so than other types of entertainers, they just like, they want you to just have a conversation with them,
Right.
you know? But recently we had a comedian, and this isn't even somebody that's a household name, and I don't want to disrespect her, but she's not.
Okay.
But I've been following her for a long time, and to me, I think she's one of the funniest comedians working today, and her name's Jessica Curson.
I love Jessica
yeah.
Curson.
Okay, cool. So I say her name, and a lot of people don't
Yeah.
know. So she was here
Recent.
3
Yeah,
weeks
kind
ago,
of recent. Yeah.
and standing ovation, and I was going to pick her up for the show, and I was just like, I haven't been like nervous for a while. But it's like a good, and then she got in the car and could not have been nicer.
Yeah.
I mean, she was so cool. And so then that fades away pretty quick when you're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Do you watch her podcast?
Yes. Yeah.
And her characters are
Amazing.
so funny. And you do you like Legina Skanks that she's
Yeah.
on?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are, I mean, I've known Jay and Lewis for a long time. So
Yeah.
they're just like the homies now. I'm like so sad
You're
I didn't
so
go.
popular and cool, Lucy. You hang with
don't
all
feel
the
like
big
that.
dogs.
The Skanks amaze me because they say stuff on
Yeah.
a nightly basis that everybody else in the world gets canceled for.
Right.
All of the words, not just the subject matter,
Right.
the words.
What words are you talking about specifically,
We'll
Jonathan, right?
get into that later. But it's amazing that they just, I guess they know who their fans are or
Right.
whatever. But
Well, and they've
they're
made the
unconcerned.
disclaimer of like, hey, this is all jokes,
Yes.
but we're going to say these
But
things.
I mean, so are all the other ones that are getting
Totally,
canceled. You know what I mean?
totally.
It's like they're all like, well, this is just jokes, but it's just, I love it.
Yeah.
I love the fact
Yeah,
that there's
those
still
guys
people
are-
that are willing to go there at this point.
They're like the rock stars of comedy for
Yeah.
sure. And I'm so bummed I didn't go to Skankfest this year.
Me too.
I'm definitely going to be there next year.
Me too.
I had a bunch of people hit me up like, why aren't you here?
Oh, God,
I
it
will
was such
be
a
there next
lineup,
year.
too.
I know. And Shane Gillis is like my favorite. So,
Yeah.
and
His
he
new
was there.
specialist is
How about the shirt, the Walmart shirt situation? Did you see the...
Okay, so funny story. I was trying to get
Oh,
all
wait,
of
in case
those-
anybody doesn't
Yeah.
understand, Shane was wearing this a god awful golf shirt from Walmart.
Yes.
I think it's $9 on Walmart online on the Rogan show.
Yes.
And another one. I think he had like 2 or 3 of those LA podcasts, and they were commenting about it. And he said,
And Joe Rogan gave him shit, so, right?
Yeah, he gave him a
He's
hard
like,
time
what,
for the
dude?
shirt.
I gotta, yeah.
Which I thought was a great shirt.
Yeah.
That my husband dresses like him. So we've always said that they should do a tour together because they dress the exact same. But so the shirts were selling out at Walmart, and Shane was here like maybe 2 weeks after he did Rogan. And I wanted so badly to get those shirts for the staff because I thought it would be
my
so
God, that would've
funny
been great.
if all of the servers were wearing those shirts, but they were sold out everywhere. Completely
Online
sold
too,
out.
because I heard that.
Online, in store.
I went to Walmart.com and I was like, surely not. And I looked and I was like, they had all the other colors, and that one was sold out. And I was like, well, of course it's like $9,
Right.
Shipped to your house. It's cheaper than a Shane
I know.
concert jersey or whatever they call them. You know?
Concert jersey. I love that. I want to start calling merch that.
Yeah.
If you were able to pull that off, that would have been so
I know.
cool.
Maybe next time. He's coming to do the Nashville Comedy Fest in April. I don't know if you saw that. Our festival is back. We did it kind of this past year, but it was like very last minute. But it's April 18th to the 24th.
Okay.
And we just announced like the initial lineup.
And is it all here?
So it's here. It's the Ryman. It's Bridgestone, and am I missing one? Zanies, Ryman, Bridgestone. Where else is the festival? Am I missing a venue? I think that's it for now. Oh, the Opry. Duh.
yeah.
So like Bert Kreischer will be here. He's doing the Ryman and the Opry.
Yeah.
Taylor Tomlinson will be here.
Yes, I love her.
Shane's going to be doing like a Shane Gillis and Friends situation. He's going to
Okay.
bring a bunch of his funniest friends from like Philly and New York, and they're going to do 2 late shows here. We've got the great Janine Garofalo coming back
Okay.
to Zanies. Yeah, so it's like, it's a killer lineup.
It'll be a big one.
Bill Burr's doing the arena, so that's all
Yes.
part of the festival.
Yes.
forward to
I
that.
got to see 2 minutes of Bill Burr when I went to LA and got to go to the Comedy Store. Ryan
Yeah.
Sigler took me over there. And I got to see Bill Burr for like his last 2 minutes. But I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm watching Bill Burr.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Oh, Bill's funny.
Yeah, I've
comic.
met him very briefly once, and that was another time I was pretty starstruck.
Yeah.
It was just like a hi, and then like he was at the Ryman, so you don't want to like stand there too long and bother somebody before they go on stage, but it was cool.
Sorry for being rude, but we can do whatever. Sorry about that, guys.
You're
fine. Did you always know
We
you
just
were
kept going.
Did you always know you were going to marry a comedian?
No. Oh, no. I had no idea. I
Probably
mean,
get a lot of people advising you against that.
I mean, pretty much everybody I've ever met advised me against it. So when we started seeing each other, we were like kind of kept it quiet, and then he was like, we were having a serious discussion about it, and we were like, all right, we have to like tell people. So I was like, all right, I'm going to sit Brian and his brother down and tell them. And they both were like, yeah, we don't care at all. Like, but it's also, I have to like put in that like my husband specifically is very kind and very put together and not a volatile person like 99% of comedians. So it felt like he's like the exception to the rule kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you marry a comedian?
No.
No?
No.
Not many bookers that I know are married
No.
to comedians.
Met my wife the first day of college.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
First day.
First day.
Interesting.
Are y'all still married?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
He did just get back in town, so I guess you.
We're going through a little rough patch after 35 years.
Well,
I got to ask what it's like, because I can't imagine a worse gig than running a rock club or a music venue. And it seems insane to run, like, are dealing with comedians like dealing with bands? Are there certain ones that come through? You don't have to name names.
No, I'll say I've been doing this for 30 years.
Yeah.
And I can probably count on both hands the ones that I think are dicks.
I would 100%
Really?
Yeah,
agree
I
with
think
that.
I think most people have idiosyncrasies.
Sure.
But I think they're very decent people. I really do.
I love that.
And then the ones that are dicks, you just don't use. You don't have to.
And they probably don't last that long either.
The couple have, but it's in the life's too short category that you don't really need. You know, there's not one person that's going to make or break.
Right.
You know, this club.
Sure.
Right.
People
So-
ask me that same question every time I tell them what I do, and it's the same thing. It's like I've run into very few people that like were so bad I would never want to work with them again.
And then most stories that you hear through the years of someone being a dick, or someone will say this comedian's a dick. it's usually someone did something first, like around the show, right? You know, like I remember, like Jeff Dunham had this awful reputation of snapping at club owners, but he had these Dear Walter cards. And, you know, people, if you didn't put the Dear Walter card on the table, it would mess up his show. How did you want him to react?
Right.
Right? I mean, you actually did something that you didn't do your job.
Right.
He came here, sold out your club. He's doing his job, and he's going to put, you know, he's going to make people laugh and do a great show. But you didn't do your job. He's supposed to sit there and go, "Hey, thank you." Right. So
Right.
You know, right. So it was always that type of scenario. What happened? You know, preceded that. Why was he an ass? Because I think, especially Luce. I mean, Luce and myself. I think we really respect what they do.
Right.
So we
Yeah.
enjoy having them here. And most weekends are really fun weekends. Or they're family. You know, they come in for a week, we have a great time, and they come back and see them 6 months or a year later. Yeah, it's great.
And that is the
All
different
of
thing
them
with
say how cool you guys are and how much they love you too. When we talk about Zanies, they love it here and they love you guys.
I was just about to say that. Like, everybody we talk to is like, "Oh, I fucking love Zanies," and probably a lot of it comes, number one, you love comedy, you love it, and you know all about it because your brother was doing it, so you kind of know the drill instead of just some guy going, "Hey, I'm going to open me up a comedy club." You know?
But I respect them, and
Right.
I respect what they do, and I tell everybody. I have some other partners, and they think we're in the food and beverage business, and I tell everybody, no, I tell everybody we're in the comedy business. Food and beverage is just a revenue stream of what we have, right? If
Yeah.
you don't respect that stage first, right? People aren't coming here. They're not eating during the day. They're not. We're not a restaurant.
Right.
We have it here. We're not a bar, but we have it here.
Great tater tots and you carry Gerst. I love it.
No, but the stage is our business. And
Yes.
I mean, I know it's semantics, but it's the truth. Comedy is our business, and then the other stuff are just revenue streams.
I don't know that that's standard in the comedy club industry, though, from the stories we hear from people.
I think that's it. I think some people just think they could, a widget.
Just put a microphone in
Yeah.
the corner and then you've got a comedy club.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
But it's also talking about being dicks. Like, from the dark comics that we've talked to on this podcast, they all are the sweetest. Like,
Yeah,
Stanhope
the sweetest
did the
ones.
first podcast we ever did. He's like, "Sure, I'll do it." Talk to him.
Also rescheduled with us 5 or 6 times because it was when the snow hit last January.
Yeah.
You know.
And
I
then we
think I did Doug's first or second. My brother and I did Doug's first or second podcast.
Yeah?
First or second episode.
Really?
That was like the first one. I didn't
Yeah.
do a lot of them, but yeah, I think Doug's a great dude.
And
I do too.
And a great comic. Like, funny is subjective. Good is not. His bits are so well. I mean, he's a savant. They're so well constructed. It's unbelievable. He's a fantastic comic.
I agree. In his books too, the guy can write. You know, I've read a couple of his books, and I think he's just as talented a writer as he. Well, I guess it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, they go
He's got to
hand in
deliver, but you can tell that he is, or from reading his books, you can tell that when he does his stand up, he's not just spitting words out. He knows exactly the words that he is using. Certain words, it's not calculated, but it is.
It is calculated. He knows exactly what he's doing. He knows exactly how he's going to. You watch the bit, the formula. He's going to open up something that you're actually not only going to disagree with. You're not even going to like the premise. He's going to dig a hole. Then he's going to change your mind, make you laugh, and show you why you were wrong.
Yeah.
And it's just genius. I mean, that bit about his mother and dying and the credit card and everything afterwards, it makes you laugh and makes you cry at the same time. That doesn't happen a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's a true genius of comedy.
I would agree. One of my favorites.
Yeah.
But yeah, even Ari, who's dark, Ari Shafir, sweetest guy in the world. We ran around making a video with him one day.
Ari is
We were
sweet.
talking to him.
Yep.
It's the ones. I get. Those would be the dicks that you would
Yeah,
think.
you would think they would be
But to your point,
standoffish at the
Yeah.
very least, but they're not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a sense of humor is a sense of humor, or that's their job.
Right.
But I don't think it makes you as the human.
sure. And I'm also. I mean, they're as authentic as it gets. I'm drawn to the dark or the punk rockish kind of comedians that will go there, like Doug. Bill Hicks was one back in the day. All those guys.
Jim Jeffries is pretty raw.
Jim Jeffries,
Yeah.
another one.
Yeah, Jim Jeffries is
A lot of all the skanks dudes.
Yeah.
I think didn't they have the festival? Didn't
this past
didn't
weekend.
Ari get dosed last night? Someone yeah,
Did he really?
Yeah, someone dosed him. Someone.
That's hilarious. The
I
funniest.
think Kim Congdon.
Yeah, that's what they were saying last night.
No
Yeah.
shit. Because that whole skanks thing where they tried to dose him and they passed it on to Big J during the. Did you
was
see that during the?
hilarious.
Hysterical. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
funny. I can't wait to see the wrap up of that.
And you look at Big J, and you go, "There's no way that guy looks like that and is as sweet as a human being as he
He's
is.
such a gentle guy.
Is he?
Like,
You
truly,
literally cannot
he's
meet a nicer human
such a
being.
sweet guy.
And you just can't believe the way he looks. He walks in here, cut off everything. You're like, and you sit down like, there's no way this guy's this nice.
Yeah.
He really is. He's
So
he's
nice.
absolutely a sweetheart.
We've been chasing him down. We hadn't got him on yet.
Yeah.
But we've got him.
Yeah.
He'll be back in January.
I saw that.
so-
I'm gonna DM him. I haven't tried to DM him yet. Okay, so what do y'all think of all the comedians moving to Nashville? It seems like they're flocking here, and is that making the new material Monday a little more spicy? I don't know.
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, it's been wonderful, I think.
Yeah.
I think it pushes the locals to be stronger.
Yeah.
Because they don't know if they're going to be following Theo Vaughn or
Mm-hmm.
Josh Wolf or Steve Byrne or Nate or, any of these guys that Nate brings on the road. They usually
Yeah.
pop in on New Material Monday. So it just it makes them step up their game.
Uh-huh.
And also we got lucky that we had such kind and supportive comics come down here. And a lot of them have taken Nashville comics out on the road now when they're touring.
Yeah, I saw
So
Chance Willie's been going out a bunch.
Chance has been going out a bunch.
Connor with
Connor
Rodney.
Larson's out with Rodney Carrington. Brian
Aaron.
Bates and then Aaron, my husband, are out with Nate, and Aaron goes out with Kathleen Madigan. And
Yeah.
so I think it has really helped cultivate a really strong scene. And I think those guys kind of watch, Josh and Steve work together a bunch, or all these guys work together, and now they're kind of inspired to start their own podcasts or, their own, Instagram videos. And I think it's just really made our scene better.
It has. There's no question about that. But I think one more point with the younger comics, they really see how the sausage is made. They
Right.
really see it's how hard that they work. I mean, Nate's constantly writing. All the same Steve. When they're out here working on it, they're constantly working. John Chris is here
Always
all the
making
time.
videos.
Yeah, trying to.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't happen by accident.
Right.
And you see, okay, you're funny or whatever it is, but there's just so much that goes into it.
Yeah, it's more than just stand up too. You have to have other content out there. Once somebody sees you on New Material Night, I have people all the time DM us on Zanies on Instagram like, hey, can you send me the lineup? I want to follow them all on Instagram. So it's like the moment that person follows you on Instagram, they want to see more content. So it's
Not just
important.
dates. I'll be
Exactly.
yeah.
And I think one thing that I've watched this for all the years in this business, I think the coasts are really arrogant. New York and LA, they think that they're the truth matter. You've toured. There's more. Everything's more the Midwest. This is a Midwest feeling. You have the freedom to do what you want to do here, as opposed to the jaded person looking at you.
Right.
That you have to be this. So now you have the freedom to do, like Josh Wolf is loving it here because he's doing more music, and he said he wouldn't even play the guitar in LA.
Right.
And now his
Yeah.
whole show is turning into music, and he's creating a character, like a country music character. So it gives him more freedom to create. I think that there's not the jaded eyeballs on you.
Yeah, him and his son Jacob FaceTimed me one Saturday morning, and they were out shopping and looking at those rhinestone jackets for
Yeah.
his character.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Which one?" Yeah. And it was between like black and white and red or something.
Yeah.
It's
I chose
funny
the
talking
black
about that with comics, though. Like, as a musician in Nashville, it's the exact opposite. This is the jaded part, the industry town, and people are
Right.
coming here
Yeah.
to make it in certain ways
Right.
to where, like,
That's funny.
you go to New York or Los Angeles to make it, I guess, in comedy. Or do people still go try to be comics to get on TV anymore? Is that
I think that it's there, but going by
It's going
by
away.
the
TV's
wayside.
going away?
Well,
Podcasts, too.
Well, the podcast, I mean, anything you take any sitcom, might get a couple million views, and you look at some of the views that these guys are getting on, I mean, they're getting millions and millions and tens of millions
And
of views.
you always say this, but with like a podcast or with YouTube, you don't need the third-party validation to tell
Absolutely.
you that you're good enough. Whereas when you're auditioning for television shows or movies, it's a panel of people in the industry deciding,
Yeah.
who gets what. But you put a podcast out there,
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is
the
this
people
is
get to decide if they like
right.
it or not,
It's the
you
golden
know?
it's the golden age of comedy.
Yeah.
It's the greatest it's ever been.
Yeah.
For that reason.
I think so
Yeah,
too.
because you put it out there and you acquire your fans, as opposed to you needing the gatekeeper telling you that I'm funny or not funny, validating your existence. And the person that usually was the gatekeeper didn't know funny if it bit him in the ass.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you think about? Oh, you have.
No, go ahead.
What do you think about them versus Netflix or posting specials on YouTube versus selling it to Netflix. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think it's a better idea to keep your own material, keep your
You
own
still
it?
own it.
through
I
YouTube?
think Netflix is just a licensing deal, and they do it. And they
They
both,
still own it through
Yeah,
Netflix?
the comedian still owns their material. I think at the end of the day, I don't know a comedian that's really going to sign over their material because that's very personal.
Right.
At some point, it's just a marketing tool, right?
Mm-hmm.
So whatever gets at the end of the day, Netflix at one point was just the monster.
Right.
It's probably not what it used to be, but it still really helps careers, and YouTube helps it. So I think they're both great. I don't think one's better than the other. I think it's however you get out there and how you get the eyeballs. Good for you.
Yeah. That
And
was
to
a
your
dumb
point
question.
about
Sorry.
content and stuff, from both of your point, that as a young comic, you used to in the same way back in the day playing music, you just had to go out and do the road to find people. You just had to go. Nobody knew who you were. You were stepping in. Maybe you get an article written here or there, but basically you'd go open for other bands that maybe people knew, and you
Right.
just had to go out and build a following. Now, especially with comedians and podcasts, when we go see them now, you feel like you know them because you've been watching them on a podcast. Number one, you know their personality. Number two, they can go out with a following already built in, not to have to go just slug it out for, mindless people just stumbling upon you.
But I think they have separate draws. Like YouTube, you see the comedy, and then you become a comedy fan. I think podcasts are kind of like a modern day soap opera in a sense of you're bringing them into your life every week, and you think you know this person. So you get to, they're talking about their families. It's not always about being funny.
Right.
So you have I think those podcasts have a completely different fandemonium, a passion that you only saw with like radio people in the day or soap opera stars in the day. There's a whole different
And a
passion.
frequency, I guess, of just seeing these people on a weekly basis, too.
Yeah, but you by grabbing that podcast, you've brought that person into your life every week.
Yeah.
And part of it is talk about, like Bert's always talking about his kids or his wife, and the family. Like last night I saw Bert in Boston, and he called Leanne on the phone, and the place went crazy.
Right, because they already know.
It's everything. So it's a whole other passion. You get to know this person, or you think you know the person more than just the jokes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've run into that talking to them. You get them on and you're talking to them on a podcast. We feel like so how about you? They don't know us at all. We feel like we're already friends. Like, we see you every week. Come on, buddy. How you doing? And
Well, and then when like with Jessica Kirson, and you watch your podcast, and then you saw it live, well, I'm blown away because
Girl crush on
Yeah.
Jessica right there.
we went through this while you were on the phone.
That's a girl
Yeah.
crush right there.
I just think she's so talented.
but her stand up like way better than her podcast.
Different.
Really?
Yeah.
No characters in it and
No
stuff?
characters. No.
Okay.
I mean, just material and crowd work.
Yeah.
No characters. So
Okay.
I like them both.
Right.
And it's cool that it's cool you can watch that podcast and then come see something and it's totally different, so you get even more out of her,
Yeah, I watched the Josh Potter podcast and then first saw him here for the first time about a month ago, and I was blown away because I knew his humor, but I didn't know he could perform these great jokes in the way he did. I just knew him from the podcast. So, yeah.
They're two different muscles.
Yeah.
Now I think they both promote creativity and writing, but two completely different muscles of a conversation or the stage. And I'm trying to it's set up, punch, and making people laugh.
Yeah.
Right.
There's an art to that.
Oh, absolutely. There's an art to that.
And probably there's a lot of people that aren't good at both. Like, I can't imagine Jerry Seinfeld having a great podcast because, first of all, I love him.
Damn.
Well, that
you
comedian
just
in
called
Cars
him
with
out.
Coffee is really no more than a podcast.
That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah, and I think one thing about Jerry, is he really understands where the joke is, where the funny is.
He's a craftsman.
Yeah, and you really see that on that show. And so he was really one of the first ones in it. It was just a different way of doing it.
I guess that's true. He's a little more creative than everybody. And I like it that he's surlier in his old age. I'm a fan of that. He seems a little...
I'm going to guess he was surly in his young age,
Probably.
too.
He's just allowed to be more public about it. Yeah. Who's going to call him on it now,
So what do y'all think of musical comedy acts when they come here and they have a guitar? Not the Josh Wolf thing, because he's definitely honing in his own thing. But, just random guy coming here. What are your thoughts on that?
Comedy, to me, comedy is comedy. I don't care if there's a there's a guitar or there's a puppet or there's anything.
I
If
could
it's
not
funny,
agree
it's
more.
funny.
Okay.
I think you made a good point. Like sometimes people get on their high horse and are very purist about stand-up, which I understand.
We've heard some pushback from comics about guitar acts, for
But
sure.
there
I'll
are
say this,
plenty of funny guitar
You go
acts.
find, you cannot find 5 funnier people in the history of this business than Carrot Top. You can't. I don't care what anybody says. He's a genius. He writes, he's funny, he was innovative, everything you want. It became the butt of a joke, but
Right.
but it was everybody repeating somebody else's joke. One, if you ever saw him live, he's amazing. There's a reason someone survived for 20 years in Vegas.
Yeah,
Right?
He's
Because-
not doing tiny clubs.
Right. I mean, 20 years he's been there. And he's been selling out for 20 years, and it's always different. And he's funny as all get up.
And if you're in your, late 20s and kind of grew up thinking Carrot Top was silly, I very much encourage you to go on YouTube and watch old Carrot Top. I did it recently, and I laughed for hours. But somewhere along the line, somebody, probably a comedy purist,
The comedy police bothers me.
It does. It bothers me too. Kind of turned him into a joke, but I mean, he truly is so funny.
100%.
And there are lots of
when I
funny
say that, everyone
guitar
asks me my
acts.
top 5. Carrot Top's always in the people are like, really? I'm like, 100%. But I think the job is, truly, is someone comes here. They're paying money to see something. If they walk out of here feeling better than they walked in here, that's really your job.
Yeah.
And there's many ways to do it. It's like you just don't people just put comedy as one genre, but there's all sorts of different types of music,
Yeah.
right? And there's all sorts of different types of comedy, and so whatever floats your boat, come in here and have a great time. Like in the
Yeah.
day, like Tim Wilson was a genius stand-up, and his stand-up was above everybody. His crowd in the South didn't understand any of his stand-up because he was above them. And when he got a following, it was with John Boy and Billy and Bob and Tom with all those songs, and it became a huge hit. But at the end of the day, whatever, it helped people get draws, which was great when it was on the radio. All those songs, Bob and Tom put a lot of those musical acts out there. John Boy and Billy, the same thing. People like it.
It's also hard to write. It's just as hard to write a funny song as it is to write a funny joke.
Right.
You know, it's not like you can just do a pair. I mean, people write a lot of joke songs, but the ones that are really, really funny, that's not an easy task to do.
I think the ones that were easier, I guess, are the parodies.
Parodies.
But if you see
Yeah.
something like Henry Phillips, I don't know if you guys
Henry
know who that
Phillips is amazing.
all those original songs, they're absolutely brilliant.
And who's the new country guy? Not Rodney Carrington, but the other. God, he was shitting on Aerosmith. We heard him on Rogan too.
He's a guitar guy.
No, he's a comedian, but he puts out records, full records.
Oh, what's his name?
I'm blanking
Yeah.
now.
Wheeler
Wheeler?
Walker.
Wheeler Walker.
Wheeler Walker.
That shit is hysterical, and the whole bit is hysterical to me.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. I mean, I don't. They
Well-
might not agree, but to me, I was making fun of country
They don't
music.
like Wheeler Walker Jr.
Maybe not, but
No,
making fun.
I know.
I have
know, I'm
no
kidding.
qualms.
Making fun of country music makes me laugh all the
Right.
time, every time.
I mean, I love Bo Burnham. I
It's like Panther, whatever it's from.
Steel Panther,
yeah,
another one of my favorites. Every time this song, I got
70% of the time,
Yeah.
it works 100% of the time.
I think
Exactly.
my generation's musical comedian was Bo Burnham.
Yeah, probably.
And I mean, I think he's a genius. I mean, he was, 16 when he started writing those songs? And he recently put out a special on Netflix that he recorded all in his room. That's
Wow.
like one of the most incredible specials I've ever seen.
Yeah, he
So-
was one of the first YouTube stars.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
he was
that's
great.
all music,
Self-made. Yeah,
you
he was
know?
one of the first comedians, probably self-made comic.
Yeah.
And that, yeah.
Have you noticed young comedians being more professional than back in the early, like bands? When I would see, well,
Yeah, they get paid in money. Back in the day,
Yeah.
you just get paid in. Do you want
Cocaine.
white or
Cocaine and shit,
green?
yeah.
Exactly.
'Cause
It's
I
a
was
little bit
thinking-
more professional.
Yeah, we sit around and talk about the good old days of playing music, and I'm like, and it had been like we got an age difference. So when we first started playing out, I was like back into the scene playing clubs again, and I'm looking around like, where are all the maniacs? Like everybody's
Well,
was
I
like going to
think-
bed early and taking. I was like, you guys are 20 somethings. You're supposed to be hookers and blow. What's
right,
happening?
but they get into it with an end game.
I
And
guess that's
30
it.
years ago, there was no end game.
No.
I was just a disenfranchised. I had nothing better to do. I got on stage, and it was just a livelihood.
Right.
And then there was probably way more debauchery off stage. Now people are getting into it as a business. This is
From the start, they see a path
Yes.
that's already been laid out.
Yes.
Plus, there's no cell phone cameras back in the old days.
Oh, no, 100%. But I mean,
No
that's
social
everything.
media.
But I think at the end of the day, these comedians are getting into it and they're getting jaded earlier because they just see a business as opposed to just going out there and just working.
Right. Because all those old Stanhope stories, they were savages back in the day. Him and
Doug was a savage.
yeah, still is. He's one of the few.
Yes.
Him and Mitch Hedberg's stories, he was telling us tons of them, and I can't imagine those two knuckleheads running around
And
together.
and throw Ralphie in the mix with those
Oh
three
my
guys.
God, could you-
Those two.
Wow.
Yeah. God
Wow.
rest your souls.
Should I ask about Papa Willie now?
Yeah.
So I'll ask you first. When's the first time you remember hearing about my grandpa Willie Nelson, and what's your own personal Papa Willie
Gosh,
story?
I didn't really grow up with a lot of Willie Nelson.
That's okay.
To be completely honest with you, I knew who Willie Nelson was, but I didn't really listen to Willie until I moved here. I liked country music as a little kid, and then didn't listen to it probably again until I moved here. So I was 21 when I moved here, 22, and then I kind of started getting into it when I moved here, and I got to I think luckily listen to all of that for the first time as an adult, really,
Yeah.
which is I think really cool. I'm
kinda-
almost jealous of myself that I get to like discover older country artists or Americana artists as an adult for the first time.
I'm jealous of myself is a great line.
Right. Thank you.
I'm kind of queer for your granddad. I've seen him so many times. I'm
Really?
like, oh yeah, I've seen. Yeah, I mean, the Highwaymen is the greatest group ever created. I mean,
Yeah.
everything about. He's the greatest. And how cool with that. I'll tell you one of the cooler things is after the Grateful Dead, there was the Dead. That went out there, and your grandfather used to open up for him all the time. So I've seen him on stage with the
remember
Dead
that.
all the
Totally
time.
forgot about
Absolutely.
that.
So I've seen him I've seen him on stage with the Dead probably 20 different times.
I didn't know that.
Absolutely,
Okay.
yeah. And I've seen, actually one of the cooler concerts I've ever. There's a place in Indiana. I think it's called the Vogue.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a small and coming through somewhere, he played it, and it was 500 people. And
Yeah.
it was just a small little, I mean, that was probably 10 years.
90s?
No, actually probably 10, 12 years ago.
Oh,
and it was just a
wow.
fluke,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
That's such a cooler answer than me.
I'm
I'm like,
No,
Casey Musgraves taught me about Willie.
yeah, I mean,
No, that's cool.
yeah,
you know,
but
it's-
I've seen him so many times. It's just,
That's awesome.
most people our age don't know.
Yeah, somebody,
a
one of
specific
the younger
thing.
comedians said, I saw him on the Muppets.
On the Muppets.
Yeah,
That's the
no,
first-
that's
that's a
probably,
great one.
Yeah,
that's
that's good.
probably same. But Casey Musgraves really like put it out there for me that I needed to be listening to Willie Nelson.
and the one thing I'll say about country, like I say that about Willie, and I'll say that about like Johnny Cash.
Right.
And the things about them, and I think Waylon was a better singer, but I think they're both great interpreters of music. I think Cash might be the greatest. So and you say they're the greatest voices ever? No, but is there something about them that they're the great troubadours of your lifetime? I mean,
Yeah.
he really is American royalty.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And is there anything more famous than his guitar?
Exactly.
No, I guess not. I
I
don't
mean,
know.
when it's there, when it goes, I mean, it's like, I know like some guys bought Jerry a guitar for over $1 million, and someone just bought
Trigger is gonna
the
go
Trigger's
for-
going to go for whatever,
knows,
right?
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
It's like I told Raelyn one time, I was like, think about how your grandpa's in a position to where, let's just say, theoretically, everything around him disappeared and he was broke. He's got no family, no nothing.
There was a time when he had those.
Well, there was a
stories.
time,
They went
yeah,
out
the
and a lot of
family
guys-
didn't disappear,
a lot
but
of
he
guys
was
came-
broke.
A lot of guys came out and did some shows
But I
for
was-
him. Come out
yeah.
there and did
Remember, it was
something.
really hectic during that time.
But I was like, if everything went away, he literally could just walk down the street and knock on somebody's door and they'd go, Willie, and invite him in and go, what do you need, man? You need a place to stay. Like he literally could almost go
But not
anywhere.
young people. No.
Well, if they got parents, well, maybe not. I don't know. He's been in enough stoner movies that the young people are like, this is the guy from
Yeah.
They just
Half
need
Baked.
Casey Musgraves.
Casey
Yeah.
Musgraves.
Be like,
And Jessica
hey.
Simpson. It used to be Jessica Simpson
Yeah.
who was keeping him alive.
When you talk about comedy and music, that Never Smoke Weed with Willie Again is one of the
Oh,
greatest.
yeah.
That's fantastic.
Another great one. Yep,
Toby Keith.
Toby
did
Keith,
it,
yeah.
for sure.
And then Papa Willie wrote "Roll Me Up and Smoke Me When I Die."
Yep.
Well, honestly, all those old school country
And
dudes.
I woke up still not dead again today.
Yeah.
The internet kept.
But all those guys, Porter
Spread the
Wagner,
rumor.
The whole Opry cast, they had jokes.
Yeah.
They didn't just go up and play songs. I think we've talked about like that's the only kind of music that really just dialed in comedy with it is the old school country.
Well, the Opry at some point kind of had a vaudeville feel about everything, in the commercials and everything like that. It was, we're talking about entertainment as well. It wasn't just singing.
It was back then when you had to be a song and dance guy. You know,
entertainer.
Yeah.
And those guys were really just entertainers.
Because they were all, if you ever hear any interviews or were lucky enough to hear them talking, you put 2 or 3 of those old guys together and start telling old stories. They've got hilarious one-liners. They've got all, it's crazy.
What's your favorite Willie song?
Right now, I love "Still Is Still Moving to Me." "Still Is Still Moving to Me." That's my favorite one right now. It changes.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, it was the one that we cover because I got to say cocaine and whiskey in it, and my mom is a holy roller, and she'd be like, "But it's I Can Get Off on You," the one that him and Waylon did. And I love "Good-Hearted Woman," like the one that him and Waylon did.
Blue Eyes Cry in the Rain.
Yeah. So he didn't write that one.
I know he didn't write it, but he's,
it's
a staple of his.
Always on my mind is like that too. He didn't write that one, but it made it big. And
I'm really not much of a fan myself.
You don't like it?
Anyway. We asked Doug this same question, Stanhope.
Yeah.
And he relayed a story about his answer was to all the girls I loved it before and how he was at the age. He's like, I fucking hated that song. There's no other song, worse song with. I Just Called to Say I Love You was the only one he could compare it to.
Yeah.
But he went off on a 5-minute diatribe about how he hated Willie Nelson, that one particular song.
I would say that. He didn't write this one either. I think it was Lefty Frizzell wrote, but Poncho and Lefty is just.
Oh, yeah. That one's
that's
great.
as good. That's as good as it gets.
Yeah, and he made that one. Him and Merle made it. And my dad was. I was on that set of that video.
Oh, really?
As a baby, because my dad, Merle didn't want to get on the horses, so my dad had to be a stuntman.
That's great.
Yeah. Man, you guys, thanks for doing this with us.
Thanks.
Yeah.
having
We've
us.
taken enough of your time. Thanks for letting us
Yes.
come here, too.
Yeah, anytime.
Yeah.
If you need to record somewhere in town, just let me know.
Thank you. I might take you up on that,
Yeah.
just in case it's easier for them to get over here.
Of course, yeah. We're not usually doing anything during the day on weekdays, so.
Yay, you guys are the best.
And we should talk more about Willie.
Brian and Lucy are my favorite non-comedians.
They were a blast. It was fun to talk about the old school days of Zanies. And all the comics love Zanies. We got a gym here in Nashville.
Yeah, and I think we might be best friends now.
Enjoy your groceries.
Don't be an asshole.
I know your mama's name.
We freed Brittany, y'all.